So, first one, what did we learn about the coefficients? What do we do with that? What do you think? What does this little dot mean? Multiply. So negative 3 times 4 is what? Negative 12, right? So don't forget that negative. Now, when we're multiplying the same base, what do we do with those powers, though? What do you think? What do we do with the powers? Like this x to the 7th, x to the 5th, what do we do with 7 and 5? Add. So x to the what? 12. Okay, so we learned this last 2 days. Add the powers. Okay. And then our y's, now this is kind of tricky. I got a negative 3 and a positive 3. What's negative 3 plus positive 3? 0, right? So I'm going to have a y to the 0. Write this down with me. Now, if you write y to the 0, that's okay, but we don't need it. What is y to the 0? Y is y to the 1. So what's y to the 0? What do you think that equals? What'd you say? 1. That's right. Y to the 0 is not 0. Okay, some people said, if you have a power of 0, doesn't that make it 0? It actually makes it just 1. Okay? So again, you don't need to write it, because multiplying by 1 is the same number. So final answer is really negative 12, x to the power of 12. Cool? You don't need the y to the 0 power. Next. No power means what?
1.
Okay, so what do I do with those powers? 1 plus 3 plus 5 is? Okay, 9. But the base, do I add them or multiply them or what do I? Wrong. They're nothing. It's the same. The base stays the same. Those are not coefficients. Those are bases. So that's 3 to the power of 9. Okay, so you add the powers. Cool? Close. So remember that first one is a 1, right?
No.
So it's 9, not 8. 1 plus 3 plus 5. Okay. Now, down here, 5 over 12. What does that reduce to? Or does it? 5 over 12 does not reduce. Start doing, now since we're dividing, what do I do with these powers? Subtraction. Dividing means subtract the powers. 9 minus 3 is 6. So x to the 6 goes on top. The y's are 2 and 9. 2 minus 9 is? What do you think? What do you think? 2 minus 9. 2 minus 9. Negative 7. So I can write that on the top, y to the negative 7. And then, don't get tricked, 3 minus negative 5. What? 8. 3 minus negative 5. Minus a negative is like adding, right? So like 3 plus 5. So it's z to the 8. What can't we have here, though? Please remember, no negative powers. So we're going to bring that down. So the final answer, 5 stays on top. X to the 6 stays on top. The z to the 8 stays on top. Y to the negative 7 goes down. So 12's on the bottom. And then y to the 7, it becomes positive when it goes down. Okay? Now that's a recap, a reminder of what we did yesterday. If you have not finished 4.1, you might have some time at the end of today after we do these 4.2 notes. So we're doing the next 3 properties. Okay. So let me pass this out and we'll do 4.2 notes. What? So when we finish these notes, you'll have time. And then so yesterday we had time working on it. Did you work on it yesterday? Sorry, I'm talking about yesterday. Did you almost? Okay. Well, I mean, there's some time at the end of class today, and you can turn it in tomorrow. It's fine. Okay. You got a little. Yeah. All right. Here we go. No crying. This is going to be great. All right. Everybody ready? Wait a minute. I thought it was a new year. I thought it was a new you. All right. So stay awake, please. Now, we're going to start 4.2 notes, right? Here we go. Power of a power. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is different than Monday because Monday we had two of the same bases and we added the powers. But when you have a power of a power, you're going to multiply the exponents. Okay, when there's one base with a power to another power, that's when you're multiplying them. Write that down, what I wrote in red. Please. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Now, here's an example. If I have x to the fourth in parentheses, and then that parentheses is squared, see how I have a power and then I have another power? Okay. We just said we're going to do what? Multiply the powers. So it's not going to be 6. We're not adding 4 and 2 this time. It's going to be x to the 4 times 2, 8. Subtly different than Monday, Tuesday. Okay. Now, 4 and 5 over here, power of a product and power of a quotient. Both of these, you're going to distribute the exponent. So if you have more than one thing inside the parentheses, you distribute it, the power. Same thing with dividing. You distribute the exponent. Okay? And I will show you an example. So write this down. So write down that example off to the right. 3x to the 5th power, in parentheses, squared. So, we just said you distribute the exponent. So let me show you in a different color here. This squared is going to go to that 3, and this squared is going to go to this x. Okay? So, 3 is going to be squared. What is 3 squared? It's not 6. So squaring is times itself. 3 times 3, 9. Okay? And then the 2, the squared, is going to go to the x to the 5th power. So again, power to a power, we just learned that we do what? Multiply. So x to the 5 times 2, 10. And then, same goes for dividing. You distribute. So, let's do x over 2 cubed. So let's distribute this. The cubed is going to go to the x, and the cubed is also going to go to the 2. Okay? So, when I distribute it, x to the 3rd power is x to the 3rd power, x cubed, right? So x cubed on top. Now on the bottom, 2 to the power of 3. Now, 2 to the power of 3 is not 6, because it's 2 times 2 times 2. That's what powers are. They're multiplying the same number, right? So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Okay? 2 cubed. Now, if you don't believe me, let's do it real quick. 2 power 3. Ta-da! All right? It's not 2 times 3, it's 2 power 3. A little bit different. Those are the 3 rules we're going to use today on these examples, so let's do it, right? Everyone get this down over here? I'll do them with you, and then if you have time after that, there's some practice in the back. I want to make sure we all know what we're doing here. So look at number 1. Now, number 1 is like the first thing we learned today. If I have a power to a power, what do I do with those 2 powers? Multiply. So this is going to be x to the power of 4 times 3, 12. Okay? Easy. So, now, even if there's a number base, same idea. Power 6 to the power of 7. What do I do with 6 and 7? Multiply. And 6 times 7, not 13, right? So, 5 to the power of 42. Now, I don't need you to type that in and give me a super long answer. Just leave it like that. Oh, yeah. And by the way, so this 5 is not a coefficient. This is the base. Okay? Up here, like on number 4 right here, that 3 was a coefficient. You did have to distribute that. But this 5 is not a coefficient, it's the base itself. So it is weird when there's a number base. Okay? That's a good point. So what we just said is like number 3, though. We do have a coefficient here. So 4 is going to have the 5th power, and x is going to get the 5th power. Okay? It's kind of hard to write this. Whatever. All right, so 4 to the power of 5. Now, if you're not sure, 4 power 5 is 1,024, because it's 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. You're multiplying 5 4s. That's what powers are. Yeah, 4 to the power of 5. So 1,024. And then, back to the exponents, when I have a power of 2 raised to a power of 5, what do I do with that 2 and that 5? Multiply. Yeah, you should write these down, right? Look at that. Wow. All right, well, anyways, so x to the power of 10. 2 times 5 is 10. Not 7. Not adding. We're multiplying. All right, 6 more. 4. Again, distribute that power. So the 3rd power goes to that 5. That 3rd power goes to that one. Now, 5 to the 3rd power. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. And then, power of 3 to the power of 3. What do I do with the 3's? What do you think? What do I do with those 3's? Multiply. Okay. Sorry, what? Okay. So we get x to the power of 9, because those 2 3's will multiply because it's power to a power. Okay. Now this next one can be kind of tricky. Negative 2 is going to get to the 4th power, to the 4th power, to the 4th power, right? 3. It's kind of hard to see. All right. Now, negative 2 to the power of 4. I want everyone to look up here, okay? Hold on. When you type this in, you must use parentheses. I see too many people looking down. Look up here. Look up here. Wake up from your slumbers. Okay? Negative 2 to the power of 4, you must use parentheses. Negative 2 power 4. Here's why it matters. Negative times a negative times a negative times a negative should be a positive answer, right? But if you do negative 2 power 4 without the parentheses, it'll automatically make it a negative. Do you see the difference here? Okay? So when you do a power of a negative, parentheses, please. So this should be 16. And maybe I need more room, so I'll just do it down here. And then x. So what do I do with that 3 and that 4? Power to a power, multiply. 3 times 4 is 12. And then y to the power of 6 times 4 is 24. All right? This is this? Yeah. So negative 2 to the 4th power we said was 16. And then 3 times 4 for the x, 6 times 4 for the y. Now, number 6. Does everyone see that negative sign on number 6? That really means negative what? Negative 1. So negative 1 is going to be squared. The x is going to be squared. Don't forget that y. It's there. That y is going to be squared. And that z is going to be squared. There are 4 things that need to be squared. Okay? Now, what do you think negative 1 squared is? It is 1. Okay? Negative 1 squared. So, again, use parentheses. And it makes sense. Negative 1 times negative 1, positive 1. Negatives cancel out. So now I just have a 1. And now I'm going to take my powers. 5 to the power of 2, so multiply. 5 times 2 is x to the power of 10. Y by itself to the power of 2. Y to the power of 2. Y squared. And then z squared. Squared again. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay. Are y'all getting kind of the hang of this? What about you? Getting this? Sure? All right. What about dividing? Same idea. Distribute the powers. Okay? So, the 2 will be to the 14th power. The 3 will be to the 14th power. Okay? So 2 to the 14th power, 3 to the 14th power. Could you get the numbers? Sure, but if it's so big, that's fine. Okay? I really don't want you to write a 7-digit number in a fraction. Okay? So that's okay. On the next one, number 8. Distribute that 5. So the 5 is going to go to this x. The 5 is going to go to that 7. And the 5 is going to go to that y. Does everyone see the bottom has a 7 and a y, coefficient and a variable? Okay. So, x power 2 to the power of 5. The 2 and the 5 will multiply. So we get x to the 10 over, now, 7 to the power of 5. 7 to the power of 5. And then y to the power of 5. Y to the power of 5. Now, could we figure out what 7 to the power of 5 is? Of course, 7 caret 5. 16,807. Okay. You could write that instead, but again, I'm trying to keep this simplified. Yeah? Last but not least, this 5 is going to go 4 places. 5 goes to the 4, 5 goes to the x, 5 goes to the bottom x, 5 goes to the bottom y. Okay? 4 to the 5th power. X to the 5th power. X to the 3rd power to the 5th power. The 3 and the 5 will multiply to make 15. The board is acting up. And then 6 and the 5 will make 30. That answer is okay, but it's not simplified. You cannot have x on top and bottom. What do we usually do with these powers when there's an x on top and bottom? Subtract when we're dividing. What's 5 minus 15? Who said 10? x to the negative 10. And last idea, can't have a negative power, so bring it down. Bring it around town. So we'll have x to the 10th power, y to the 30th power. So again, that's not 45, that's 4 to the power of 5. X to the power of, over x to the power of 10, y to the power of 30. Okay? So, I know that was a lot. And there's some extra practice on the back, which I only want you to work on if you're done with yesterday's assignment 4.1, which you have time right now. Okay? Now this back part's not an assignment, so don't get flustered. Tomorrow is the assignment on this. Okay? But make sure you work on and finish 4.1, drop it in the turn-in bin as a priority. When you're done, you can work on practice for this. Okay?